his strength. He did essays on why the Great Depression was so devastating and lasted so long. He has an incredible understanding of deflation. The essays that he did included some of the recent research on the international character of this crisis. This broad view shows you that while the Great Depression was an unparalleled disaster on a truly universal scale, some economies pulled up faster than others did, and some made an opportunity out of disaster. But there was immense human suffering. He did essays on this. He's schooled on this. He's the man for the job. So, what do you think Ben Bernanke will do if he's faced with the choice? He'll choose inflation. Just look at what he's good at. It's not hard. He's dreamed of this battle. To avoid deflation, he'll resort to the printing presses. He'll recall all the helicopters from all of the 800 overseas U.S. military bases, if he has to. He'll monetize everything in sight. His ultimate accomplishment will be the hyperinflationary destruction of the American currency. And from its ashes will rise the one world government. Ben's the man for the job. March 23rd, 2006, the Iran Oil Exchange goes into business. Or will it? Will it be allowed? Will America do something to stop it? Some stories just beg to be covered. And no one's touching this. It's so quiet. And it's the biggest story. I trade in the FX, and I just got to let you know, back in December, Russia went from a 60-40% reserve of United States dollars, euros, to a reverse of this, now having the euro as the majority. So that's Russia bailing on the United States dollar and purchasing euros. That's right from someone who works on the floor of the stock exchange. March 23 is the date the Iranians have set to open their Iranian oil exchange. Something else that I noticed also. On the Federal Reserve's website. March 23rd. Yeah, the same exact date that the Iranians picked to start their Iranian oil exchange, March 23, 2006, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System will cease publication of the M3 monetary numbers. The board will also cease publishing the following components: large denomination time deposits, repurchase agreements, and Eurodollars. The board will continue to publish institutional money, market mutual funds, as a memorandum item in this release. The Federal Reserve, may I remind you, is not a federal government organization. It's a private corporation which is wholly owned by the brokers and bankers on Wall Street. But just what is the M3 that they're no longer going to publish? And how is it relevant? The Federal Reserve in the United States collects data on how much money is in circulation. You know, how many dollar bills there are, how many 5s there are, how many 20s there are, how many 50s there are, how many 100s there are, how many thousands there are. You get the picture. They collect data on how much has been printed and in circulation, where it's being stored, if it's in cash or stocks, and prints these stats every 3 months. These are the M series of reports. M is in money. M0 is simply how much physical American money is in circulation, both coins and banknotes. M1 is M0 plus all the money that's in banks. Someone could withdraw immediately, like checking accounts. M2 is M1 plus other types of accounts, including money markets and smaller cash denominations under $100,000. M3, the one that will no longer be printed, is M2 plus Eurodollars. Not Eurodollars as in the sense of over there. It actually refers to dollars being held by non-American banks. So you understand, the European banks could have a bunch of American dollars called Eurodollars, but you could also have a whole bunch of American dollars in China. So it's the American dollars that are out of the country that they will no longer be publishing. They will no longer allow you to know who's dumping them and how much they now hold. Why does this matter? Why would keeping track of how many dollars being held overseas matter to anybody except maybe bankers? Well, the answer has to do with oil. The stuff the Illuminati have an excuse to start wars over. This doesn't mean that oil actually has to be transferred from, say, Saudi Arabia to New York, where it sits in a real barrel until it's sold to a customer in Japan. What it does mean, though, is that oil is traded like any commodity via these two, and only these two stock exchanges so far, in London and in New York. And there also futures or promises of oils being delivered and sold and traded as well. So the customer in Japan maybe a large oil refinery company buys the oil, shares, via one of the two exchanges from one of the oil owners, a company like ExxonMobil or Saudi Arabia's Aramco. And while the oil itself never actually gets to London or New York, all the money involved flows through those cities. And every single barrel of oil is bought and sold in American dollars. This means that every single country which wishes to buy oil has its own dollars to do it, its own American dollars. Since these American dollars are held overseas, they're referred to as Eurodollars. Although, once again, they don't have to be in Europe. They can be in China, Japan. They aren't valued any differently. The world sells and buys billions of barrels in oil a day. And every single one of those billions is in the form of an American dollar. The effect of this is that every single country in the world which holds large reserves of American dollars for the purpose of buying oil is essentially propping up the American economy on a huge scale. If it isn't backed by gold, or even by the American government, it's simply a piece of paper, or a blip on a screen that everyone believes has worth. So a country like Saudi Arabia ends up selling their tangible resource, oil, in exchange for billions of pieces of green paper, American dollars. Those little pieces of green paper, in order to make them worth anything, must be traded for something of value. It can be anything from food to cars to high-tech weaponry. Think of it this way. Imagine the world is one huge casino. Players can trade in oil or food or electronic equipment for chips that are manufactured and designed by the casino itself. The chips aren't worth a thing by themselves. They're just painted chunks of plastic, right? But for the players to cash out, they need to redeem the chips for tangible goods made by the casino at a rate the casino sets. So if you swap casino chips for dollars, that's a pretty good way to understand how this system works. So let me get back to the Federal Reserve and their decision to stop reporting holding of dollars overseas. Why does it matter? There's a lot of speculation out there, but one good guess is that March 23 next month is when Iran's oil exchange will debut. Iran's an OPEC member, which right now restricts all foreign sales to the American dollar. So is there any way for Iran to start selling its oil without having to resort to the currency of its enemy, the U.S. dollar? I think the answer is close to completion. And it's a yes. And I have not seen or heard anyone mention it in the American mainstream Illuminati manipulated media. If you don't do the research, you never even have heard of what Iran has planned for March 23rd. Spaceman AM 640 Toronto Radio, talking about the biggest story of the decade, maybe of decades, as Iran is about to challenge America in the oil exchange business, not using American dollars, but using the euro. In June of 2004, Iran announced it was creating this oil exchange. Right now, as I've stated already, only 2 oil exchanges in the world now, London, New York. Both use American dollars. See, American currency is actually propped up by black gold, which I wonder now about gold and how the price of gold will soon be reacting. I'd love to hear from somebody working in the market right now that's involved in gold, where Iran is about to enter the oil exchange market